Is Disney CEO Bob Iger corrupt, and are there actual diversity, equity, and inclusion spreadsheets used to check off performance in nearly every department and facet of the Walt Disney Company's operation? Well, this week's subject, caught on camera by the O'Keefe Media Group and James O'Keefe as part of his Disney Tapes files, seems to confirm exactly that. And today, we're going to talk about it with Jonas J. Campbell of That Park Place and attorney Ron Coleman of the Coleman Nation podcast. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and Wednesday afternoon right here on Valiant Renegade for the live shows at 6 p.m. Eastern. Joining me today to talk about the new Disney tapes from James O'Keefe and O'Keefe Media Group, Jonas J. Campbell, investigative reporter for That Park Place, and of course the great Ron Coleman joining us once again to give us some legal flair for this one. So gentlemen, let's get right into it here. This is the latest from James O'Keefe, and there are some clips that we saw from last week with Mr. Giordano baked into this. This one seems to reiterate some of what was discussed in the previous video, but with a different Disney mid to upper level executive.
Do you think that they wouldn't hire a C-suite who's not white or not Jewish?
In entertainment, no. There's also a slight glass ceiling for that. I feel like it's not, there's a glass ceiling. It's not quite like being breached yet. You're not going to see a CFO I guess, for lack of a word, non-white, non-Jewish.
So we're already see, this is the intro to the video. This gentleman, Dave Maker, apologize if I'm getting the name pronounced incorrectly here, Director of Production Finance at Walt Disney Television.
Right, and I'll also point out that this confirms some of the reporting on That Park Place, that people are required that ad executives and other departments within the company were required to keep a DEI journal. We got a lot of pushback on that because, I've never heard of a DEI journal. Well, have you ever heard of a performance review that you needed to bring supplementary materials to describe why you actually performed the metrics? Anyone who was actually fulfilling their performance review requirements would have had to have kept a DEI journal. And this is, I believe, confirmation of that.
What about, like, the LGBTQ?
Yeah.
I want to see them do it more in, like, the kids' shows.
That'd be great, yeah. It's the way the world is. You can't, like, pretend it doesn't exist.
Unless, of course, you live in many foreign countries where they typically cut that out of their film and television products because it's frowned upon for children's entertainment almost everywhere else in the rest of the world except here.
Last week on the Disney tapes, we met Mike Giordano.
That's Giordano of the T-neck Goldbergs.
Juxtaposition between corporations, especially in entertainment, that say, we want diversity and all of these things, but then in reality,
But it's a number, I've done the reports on diversity inclusion. They make us do every year, saying, okay, look at your shows, tell us the diverse cast or crew members that are in there. So you've seen number count go up. I'm like, yes, it's gone up, but I feel like that's like a forced metric. There's also a slight glass ceiling for that. I feel like there's a glass ceiling. It's not quite like being breached yet. You're not going to see a CFO I guess, for lack of a word, non-white, non-Jewish.
what's included in the diversity, columns?
So they'll say, is the cast diverse? They have, a lead cast member who's, of color. Do they have like a cameraman, or do they have like a director who's of color? So that way we're good. That I can say. Like I've seen a lot of directors, people who are of color, getting opportunities. And as a writer,
People of color.
Does every department have diversity spreadsheets? I'm
Yes.
seeing a pattern here.
Yeah, exactly, Jonas. They do. And that's something that we've talked about time and time again. And in this video now with people on camera from inside Disney at some, like I said, some fairly upper level positions, not C-suite upper level, but upper level nonetheless, confirming that that's what everything seems to be guided by at Disney. Not only from the productions themselves in front of the camera, where they're making artistic decisions in terms of what kind of cast they want to have on screen or what type of script they want to have, but also the hiring goes so far as what is behind the camera that's off screen that has nothing to do with the artistic direction of the production, but they seem to be suggesting here that yes, there are indeed racially discriminatory hiring practices for production assistants, camera operators, grips, techs, other things of those nature. And I don't know, again, Ron, where do you think that line, if there's an issue here, where would that line get drawn on who's getting hired for what position that would fall under perhaps some type of discrimination?
Where does that line get drawn in the sense of between what and what?
Between in front of the camera. Okay, so
Right.
you have let's say you have a film, you have a television production. In front of the camera, we're going to hire actors that look this way because this is the cast we want for our artistic expression. Would that artistic expression then roll over to people that are behind the camera, the technicians, the camera operators, and everybody else?
Well, you've heard me say a few times that I think that discrimination claims would probably be most difficult where they implicate the creative side, and that would even include directors and to some extent writers. But the further you get from the set, the more likely that line is to be drawn. And of course, judges are in the business of drawing lines. If you tell me that you chose a certain director because in other words, let's imagine that we're in the ideal lawyer's world of smoking gun evidence. I've got the email that says, "Here's what we're doing." Okay, we're doing a new Marvel. Gotta have an Asian, lesbian, disabled director for this one. I don't think that you can say, "Well, no, that's a creative choice." That's ridiculous. That's not a creative choice. That's just pure discriminatory hiring.
Now they would obviously say that was going to inform the artistic vision or the authenticity. They would mark it based on the
you could say that. You could say that, and I think it flies again when it comes to what's on screen. But if you can say it for a director, then you can say it for a producer and for a scriptwriter and for the production finance director at Walt Disney Television. There's no end to it. I do think that in front of the screen and behind it, and is the director or perhaps even the showrunner the hard case? Maybe it is. We might, you see, again, you can have a discriminatory practice. That's one kind of claim. I lost my job or I was not considered for a job because of discrimination is another kind of claim. And there's got to be nothing harder than trying to convince anyone that you would have gotten a job in Hollywood, but for your, let's face it, both the people that we've seen so far, or maybe there are now three in these videos, are all have motivations for sour grapes.
Disney literally has diversity check boxes on their proxy statements. This is from their 2023
How offensive.
Proxy statement. Right. Now they have improved somewhat on their 2024. They did change it to diversity dots instead of literal diversity check boxes. So just
and the funny when you look at it, especially when they do their annual statement, their annual shareholder statement, one of the delineations for diversity, it's literally anything that is not white, not male. That's it. If you're not white, not male, you are diverse. So, yeah. I mean,
so
when I think of
let's be
diversity,
clear.
I would think of everything, but that's specifically excluded in Disney's definition of diversity.
Just to be clear to the viewers, diversity, that's an attribute. That's the bottom right. That's that last line on the bottom of this table.
Right. And if it's easier to read, we
you
can
check
go
off
to
the box for
previous one,
diversity?
which is literal check boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And the shame here is that some people who might be entitled to multiple checks are only one.
That's very true.
If you're a woman and a minority, you should get two.
Mm-hmm.
And this way you can be that much more lacking, presumably, in some other attribute.
Yeah, I mean, this is the currency now in corporate America, and especially the entertainment industry.
It's important, I think, for me to see, like, you know, the LGBTQ stories, and like, especially for kids, so that they can understand all of that, and you know, introduce it to them just so that they're comfortable and all this stuff. Like, do you think that Disney like makes that a priority?
I think they are. To an extent, yeah.
Do you think it's authentic? Like,
Not quite. Netflix does it better.
So Disney's philosophy is that you're never too young to learn about the LGBTQ agenda.
People who watch this channel are saying, James is not breaking any news here, right? Everyone, it's not even news that these people who are not creative side people are saying this. But what James is doing is reaching millions of eyeballs who don't yet subscribe to Valiant Renegade. And of course, who should. But this is an escalation of what's going on at Disney beyond our little culture war spot on the internet to a much bigger culture war spot on the internet.
Yeah, that's what we're going for here, right? Is James is reaching a lot of people that have no clue about this anywhere. I mean, and that's what's helping.
Well, and for informational purposes, I feel like I should point out the Everything Woke channel has reviews of most of this content here. Not Elemental, that's the previous Pixar film, but Strange World, if you want to understand what's in it. Baymax, which is definitely a show that is aimed at 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. That one is featured here and has the young man considering dating the other man. You could even say that he's allergic to not being gay based on the plot line. You can go see the video and see whether or not that assumption is correct for yourself. But there's plenty of content there for you to review if you are a concerned parent and want to know what's in Disney content. If this is the first that you're hearing about that issue. And yes, he is right. Netflix is worse, except that they're less influential.
Our show, we insert diversity when it's not really like organic to the story.
it's
It kind of stands out. Like this just feels like a weird.
orchestrated.
Yes, that's the word, orchestrated, right?
Like so many of the things that Disney has done, and look, obviously this guy doesn't work on the side of the major Disney studios like Pixar and Disney Animation that actually makes a lot of the kids' content. He's talking about a show that was, I don't think this was a show that was geared for kids, but it's the same problem over there. They try to inject it into the kids' programming, and on top of that, when they do it, it's so inauthentic and it's so forced, it's literally just a political message. And this is why people have stayed away from things like Lightyear and stayed away from things like Strange World and several other little projects that Disney has tried to throw out there.
Because the story, they just tried to feed in so much diversity and they took away from what could be authentic. It just didn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
Characters felt like, oh, they're trying to hit a box. Like, there's one lesbian character there, there's one like African American, there's one Indian, there's one Chinese, there's one this. But it just felt like these people would never be together in that setting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and look, there it is. This guy, one of Disney's own executives, somebody who's involved in, a key position of greenlighting these shows, securing financing to do these shows, and even this individual, a man of color, a man of seemingly Indian descent here, is just outright saying, look, Disney is just checking boxes. And this right here, I think, is one of the key points of the video, because it backs up everything that we've talked about for years, and it puts to bed this idea that Disney has some moral superiority claim against just average fans out there that see this happen and call it out for exactly what this executive just said it was. It's just check boxes on a diversity sheet to pass a litmus test inside the company, and it's disingenuous.
Let me say something else. James doesn't bring it home, at least not in the version of the video that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But the lesson here, of course, is not only are they hypocrites, but these are the members of the elite, the people who, just as Amandala's father is white,
yep,
and which makes her 50% as white as 50% as white as anyone. Disney is as white as snow for all practical purposes. And at the very top, the existing elite, which includes the Jews who control the media and control Hollywood, as we all know, ask anyone. And the white men, they're eager to fill all the mid-level positions and these are not creative. Look, these are not creative people. These are bean counters. They don't know what goes into creativity. They think of what the creative side does as the widget factory.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about to them, it's just a product. And a product can just as easily be spat out by this kind of person as by that kind of person. It's all interchangeable. They don't understand how creativity works. So it's easy for them to make these kinds of decisions for anything that doesn't matter to them. And all that matters to them is that C-suite with the shower in it.
I know people like that. They love that energy. They thrive on it.
Just comment on how terrible the music is playing in this restaurant. I'm like, I'm sitting here going, check, please. God.
There's also a slight glass ceiling for that. I feel like there's a glass ceiling. It's not quite like been breached yet. You're not going to see a CFO I guess, for lack of a word, non-white, non-Jewish. In tech, everybody's like brown. All the CEOs are like, all tech companies mostly in there. You look at it right now.
So you think that they wouldn't hire a C-suite who's not white or not Jewish?
In entertainment, no. That is it. But it's not just us. It's like every studio you look at, you'll find Indians pretty much higher there. You find like chief technology officer, he'll be Indian, obviously technology, right?
He even claims that
we're stereotyping there. He's like, you look at other studios, you'll find a chief technology officer. He's Indian, right? It's technology. That's like, I just...
I mean, if we're looking at the cream of the crop here, if we're just talking about the big technology companies that Iger would call media, I mean, Microsoft is Satya Nadella, okay, Sundar Pichai from Alphabet, but Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook. I'm really not seeing the statement. I'm seeing maybe a little bit of bias on this guy's part here.
Yeah, and you've got a chart there. Let's pull that up. What is Disney's composition when it comes to C-suite and board? Well, let's go down here.
Yeah, and thank you very much to Ron for providing this link here. Robert A. Iger, yes, he is in fact a member of the tribe. I will say that. So, yeah, maybe from Disney Dave, as James O'Keefe calls him, view, he's seeing Alan Bergman above him in Disney Entertainment, and then Robert Iger above him. I don't think Hugh Johnston is Jewish. Maybe, perhaps.
Not that we're aware. He is the new CFO, and he replaced a name that is about to come up in this video, confirming what we all knew about a year ago, but he replaced a CFO that came before him that was a white lady who is no longer there. But we'll get there in a minute.
Do you want me to continue explaining here, or?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah,
I just didn't want to step on you there. We got Christina Shaki, David El Bodish, Asad Ayaz, the new chief brand officer for the company, used to be chief marketer for the company. Tanisha Agramonte, of course, replaced Latondra Newton. Sonia Coleman, chief HR for the company. Horacio, sorry, I do believe on the last call he was called Horacio. Gutierrez, depending on how you define white, Horacio here, Carlos Gomez. I don't want to play the game of who's the whitey here, but it does look like there is plenty of diversity on this board, and not necessarily white, and not necessarily Jewish. Obviously, this is the leadership team and the board together, and as I can tell, Ron, can you save me here and make this analysis yourself?
It seems to me that Jews are actually underrepresented on this board. Now, can you throw up a picture of the Disney stock price?
Ah, good Lord.
Do you think Bob Iger is corrupt?
Now, yes. Now he just wants to stay in power. He came with a 2-year promise. In 2 years, I'll turn the company around and I'll get you new CEO. He extended that to 2026. He got rid of a few people who were like, who could have been against him. He got rid of her. Like one CFO, Christine McCarthy. She was the CFO of Disney. He got rid of her. That's why I felt like, okay,
See, okay, there we go. We were given the song and dance about this time last year, in July, as a matter of fact, or June. She checked out, I believe, just before the big Sun Valley Conference, which is where all the media conglomerates meet up in Idaho. That's going to take place in a couple of weeks. And at that conference, remember, we had Bob Iger sitting out in the, in the back of the hotel with the lovely planes behind him, sitting in that chair with CNBC, where it had just been announced that he had been given a 2-year extension to his contract as CEO. And this is what kickstarted Nelson's second campaign against Disney. But a week or two before that, or maybe right after, I don't remember, I think it was before, Christine McCarthy pieced out. She left, the CFO, the chief financial officer of the Walt Disney Company, who was instrumental in bringing Bob Iger back to Disney and getting Chapek fired not 8 months before that. And we speculated at that time that I said, I think Christine knew what was coming. Bob was going to get himself renewed, which means Christine was going to have to take a back seat again, potentially for at least another 2, 3, 4 more years. She wanted the top chair. She bailed out and gave the world the, I'm leaving to be home with my family for medical reasons. She did have a history of cancer. Her husband had a history of medical issues. She was, I believe Christine McCarthy was in her 60s, almost 70 years old. So, it lined up, but there was still something that didn't sit right about that. And we knew that it's like, I bet she checked out and Bob Iger forced her out the door. Mm-hmm. And then because Latondra Newton, Disney's first and up to that point only chief diversity officer that had been there, she checked out not long after Christine did. And that's why we have a new black woman in that position. Latondra Newton was also a black woman in that position in a C-suite job as chief diversity officer. Ton Newton also checked out because maybe there's something to this that Bob is not going to hire somebody that doesn't fit a certain mold. That is possible. But I found this to be, in my opinion, I think the most interesting part of this. Again, nothing that we didn't really know. But now we have somebody who's in that more upper echelon of Disney just outright saying, oh, he got rid of her because she was a problem for him.
Right. I'll just add a little timeline information here. June 15th of 2023 was when McCarthy said that she was stepping down for medical leave and would
Yep.
stay on in some capacity for the remainder of her contract. Kevin Lansbury came in and was on at least one call. The head of HR, I believe his name was Kevin McDonald. I'm maybe putting a different name in there, but he stepped down and was replaced by Sonia Coleman, who rose up through ESPN, and of course Latondra Newton. So there was a lot of movement in the C-suite.
Ton Newton left 5
time.
days later. Ton Newton was June 20th of last year.
So, and Sun Valley was in July, mid-July.
It was like a week
year.
later, 2 weeks later, that Bob Iger was announced as, oh, I'm not leaving at the end of 24. Now I'm staying till the end of 26.
See this, she's removing any potential threat. She could have been CEO.
Yes, you heard that right. He, like many, believe Bob Iger is corrupt. And if you look at the recent filings of Disney shareholder Nelson Peltz, it seems others carry the same sentiment. If Iger doesn't get Disney fixed quickly, there may be a job opening in Disney's C-suite soon, if you're a white Jewish man. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Next.
Sounds like a good deal.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.